Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Good evening, everyone. It's a big day in our nation. It's Tider Insider TV Day. Across the studio for Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. I know it's also Election Day as well. We continue to work at a safe social distance here in our studio. And Alabama did not work at a safe social distance. They got after Mississippi State this past Saturday night, shutting out Mike Leach and the Bulldogs at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's the first time ever that a Mike Leach coached football team has ever been shut out. The defense held the Bulldogs to 0 points. Malachi Moore, SEC Freshman of the Week, with 8 total tackles, couple of pass breaks up. You see Fedarian Mathis there with a sack. Mac Jones is now your new Heisman front runner after 291 yards and 4 touchdowns, all to Devontae Smith. Smith, 203 yards receiving, 11 catches, 4 touchdowns, first player in SEC history to have multiple games with 4 receiving touchdowns. And Mac Jones may be the #1 guy for the Heisman right now, but his targets are helping him get there, with Smith able to execute in such a fashion that the quarterback knows he can rely on him as a target, even sometimes when he's covered.
Smitty, like, he's always open, man. Like, even when he's not, he just tells me to throw it up to him. And sometimes I do have to take more checkdowns and things like that, but if it's one-on-one, like, I trust Smitty, I trust Mechie, Slade, Miller, all those guys. So at the end of the day, it's a game of numbers, and, you know, if they're going to put one guy on Smitty, then you just got to take advantage of it, and that can happen and change each game depending on the game plan, but it just goes back to taking what they give you and attacking the defense that way.
All right, you lose a guy like Jalen Waddle from your offense and from Mac Jones, and, you know, you could expect Mac's numbers maybe to go down a little bit, but he continues to be outstanding, Rodney, even without Jalen. Slade Bolden has stepped in. Mechie's been good all year, and Devontae Smith may be the best route-running receiver in the country. All right, here's what's, you know, up with Mac Jones right now, Rod, and I want to get your reaction. He is now, according to the Las Vegas sports sites, the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Now, that's a week-to-week deal. I get it. But to come from where he was at this time last year when he was a backup to Tua, and quite frankly, people held their breath when Tua got hurt, wondering whether or not Mac Jones could do the job, to the point where he's now the Heisman frontrunner 6 games into his redshirt junior season. It's remarkable. What do you make of it?
Well, you know, listen, I don't think it's hype, Gary. He's put up big numbers against probably the toughest schedule that's been played. He's beat 2 top 7 teams, 5 teams. When you're talking about Georgia, Texas A&M, you're talking about Georgia has an incredible defense, probably the best in college football. I think Mississippi State obviously is really good defensively too. They were #1 in the SEC statistically, even though I believe Georgia's a better defense overall. But listen, I mean, he's produced against those teams. I mean, you're talking about 4 TD passes in this game. He threw for over 400 yards against Georgia. I would have never really dreamed that, to be honest with you, as good as they are defensively. But you know what? I think he deserves the accolades that he's getting right now.
You know, Rodney, you watch a guy like Tua, and you say to yourself, well, you know, he's a once-in-a-lifetime thrower of the football, passer. And you certainly don't expect the next guy behind him, who had been waiting in the shadows, to be maybe just as good. But Mac Jones, in terms of the statistics, the completion percentage, the number of throws downfield, as you said, Rodney, he's putting up numbers second to none, Tua or anybody else. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing, and he looks like a guy that has been a starter for 3 or 4 years instead of not even a full season yet.
Well, he's a guy that he bided his time, Gary. I mean, he did what he had to do in terms of his development. He realized when he got here that obviously they already had guys in front of him, but he needed an opportunity to develop, and he got that opportunity. Last year when his time came, he did extremely well. That was tremendous experience for him coming into this year. Look, Mac Jones is a surgeon. He's a guy, when you look at him, he's in total control, total command. He just reeks of knowing what's happening when you look at him. Even before the ball snapped, I think Mac knows pretty much what's going to happen. That, for a quarterback, is a guy that's going to be very, very successful. And again, delivers the ball accurately. And he's had a couple of runs this year. He had a run in this game here, Gary, if you remember that run that he had where he kind of broke out of the pocket. He just has a feel Obviously, he's not Joe Burrow running the ball, but he's a guy that just has a feel, can manipulate the pocket, and if there's something open, he can pick up some yards.
Yeah, I think you said it. He's got a great feel for the position. He'll need to continue to play well. 6 down. Alabama's a perfect 6-0, but after the break, they got 4 more. They'll try to finish that stretch 4-0, get to Atlanta, win an SEC championship game, and play for a national championship in the playoff. That's Mac Jones' job to lead them there. Well, now it's time for Coach Talk. Alabama, as I said, 6-0 after 6 weeks of SEC play. Head coach Nick Saban knows now is a really good time for this team to get to the bye, take a break, get refreshed, and then get ready to finish out the season.
I think the bye week is coming at a really good time for us. We got a lot of guys that need to get healed up, and we got a lot of other guys that need to make some improvement. So when they're called on, they're going to be able to go out there and play and be effective as players. So it's kind of where it's at.
All right, Rodney, clearly this is unprecedented for all these teams in the league, but Alabama's played 6 games against 6 SEC teams. They get a week off, and then they crank back up for the Final Four against LSU in Baton Rouge, Kentucky and Auburn at home, Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and then at Arkansas. What do they need to do this week to get themselves geared up for that Final Four game stretch?
Well, I think, first of all, Gary, again, you're talking about the health. This is an opportunity for them to kind of, not necessarily take it easy, but it's a game. It's not a game week where it gives them an opportunity. They're not going to work quite as hard physically in practices. They can rest some guys in that regard. You may get some younger guys a lot of work this week. I do, just for an example, you may want to prepare another receiver for the stretch run just in case. Maybe some of the younger offensive linemen will get more work this week, more looks. It's certainly on the defensive side, you can continue to develop guys for the stretch run here this week. And, they take the weekend off. They'll be rested when they come in next Monday, start practice preparing for LSU.
All right, Rodney, great analysis. A sad note now. Paul Crane, an All-American football player at the University of Alabama who went on to win a Super Bowl with Joe Namath and the New York Jets, passed away over the weekend. Crane, a native of Pascagoula, Mississippi, who prepped at Viger High School in Pritchard and played for the Crimson Tide and head coach Paul Bryant in the 1960s, died Saturday at the age of 76. Crane played both center and linebacker at UA. He earned All-American honors for his work at center his senior season and assisted the Crimson Tide to 2 national championships in 1964 and 1965. He was a great player, and from everybody that I've talked to, Rodney, he was an incredible gentleman as well. Maybe younger fans aren't familiar with him, but Paul Crane was a great football player.
Yeah, he was. He certainly was. Played on a lot of famous Alabama teams, Gary. He mentioned he played both ways at times. A guy that was really famous as a center. And listen, I know down in South Alabama, down in the Mobile area, he was widely respected, certainly did a lot of media things down there and on radio and TV, and was really well loved.
Absolutely. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Crimson Tide football maybe having another great season, but other fall sports not quite at that level right now. We'll catch you up. And a familiar former Alabama quarterback started his first game in the National Football League on Sunday. We'll recap Tua's debut. And we'll get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the phone number as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen, or you can tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV so that we will see it. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
I don't think I played to the standard of what this offense is capable of. There were certain plays where, I could have stepped up and made the right throw, made the right decision. But I've heard it many times from the guys in the locker room. It's good that we still came out with the win. And aside from that, thank God we got a good defense.
And welcome back to TITV. I'm Gary Harris. Rodney Orr from Tider Insiders across the studio. Tua Tagovailoa made his NFL starting debut this past Sunday against a really good defense in the Los Angeles Rams. Wasn't flashy, didn't put up the kind of numbers people would have liked to have seen, but the result is a victory, and that's the bottom line. Rodney, Tua, 12 of 22 for 93 yards, did have 1 touchdown that he threw into a very tight window, no interceptions. Took care of the football, took some hits, played the entire game. Bottom line is his team, you heard him thanks to defense and special teams, they got out 28-7. Now, Brian Flores is a smart guy. He's in the Bill Belichick tree. He's no dummy. You're up 28-7 with the rookie quarterback. Your goal is to get it into the locker room with a win. So those people that were wanting numbers for Tua, they'll come maybe in another game, but this game went great for Miami, and I think was a good start for Tua with that kind of defense.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, again, his first game, he has an adjustment to make, Gary, and I think it's a great opportunity for him to get out there. And you mentioned a great defense. And listen, there were legitimately 4 drops in the game that, Tua, the receivers didn't help him out. Would have made his statistics look a little better, certainly. But I think as we move along, you're going to see Tua really start to become a fantastic quarterback that we expect him to be in the NFL.
28-17, Dolphins like they got a good football team, and the Rams we know are really good, so that was a big win for Tua in his debut. Other big weeks by former Crimson Tide stars, they're everywhere. Running back Josh Jacobs, watch this, Rodney. Get out of my way. He carried the load for the Raiders in snow and wind in Cleveland. He rushed for 128 yards, 102 or 82, I should say, in one half. He's just a really good football player. Another former Crimson Tide running back, Damian Harris, rushed for 102 yards in his first NFL touchdown against the Bills for the Patriots in a game that Patriots probably should have won. Josh McDaniels, the OC, quoted saying Damian is the kind of guy, there may or may not be a hole, but he's going to make one. That's a direct quote. All right, Rodney, we see it every week, but and there's many more that we didn't mention there, but it is amazing what Nick Saban has done at Alabama, but the number of players that he has sent on. You know that Alabama has a starting, now that Tua is starting at quarterback, Alabama has a former player starting at every position in the National Football League.
Wow. Listen, I don't know if it's in the show or not, the Tide commercial that's out right now, Gary.
It's coming up.
Okay, well, I won't spoil it. But listen, it is phenomenal what's going on in terms of what has happened here, putting players in the NFL. And listen, they talk about, other schools have, certainly put in a lot of players, Clemson, Ohio State, but what's gone on here for the last decade is unmatched.
Yeah, you win with great players, and great players, of course, go on to be NFL players. Well, Alabama soccer had its final home match of the season this past week as they faced Texas A&M on senior night. The Aggies got on the board within the first minute as Taylor Pound scored off the corner kick from Amina Lopez. Alabama managed to put some shots on the net, but simply couldn't get anything past Aggie goalkeeper Kenna Caldwell, who made some saves, all saves on all 7 shots that she faced. Texas A&M would put one in the back of the net once again in the 67th minute as Laney Carroll beat Alabama goalkeeper McKinley Crone. The Aggies would go on to win 2-0. Alabama will be back in action this Sunday as they finish off the regular season against Auburn. Alabama volleyball lost this past Friday night to number 4 Florida, and again on Saturday afternoon, both in 3 sets. This match marked the halfway point in the fall season. Alabama's 0-4 because Florida, one of the best teams in the country. They're back on the road this upcoming Saturday, November 7th, against the Georgia Bulldogs over in Athens. Well, still to come on TITV, the Jets' Quentin Williams gets another chance to be a Tide star. Rodney alluded to it already. We'll explain. And next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number 205-348-9882. We'll be right back with a show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only Tider Insider TV.
Quentin.
Whoa.
You in?
So, can I swap jersey with Tua?
Sure. Tide will clean any jersey.
What about Derek?
Derek, too.
Reggie?
Yeah.
Minka?
Sure. Tide will...
Jerry? Henry? Julio?
Cute. That's a lot of jerseys.
But you still got AJ, JK, Ronnie, Payne,
Look at the time.
Ron. Where you going, Robot Payne?
If it's got to be a deep clean, it's got to be Tide Hygienic Clean.
Tide teamed up
The Jets' Quentin Williams is a Tide star again. He stars with Peyton Manning in a new commercial for Tide detergent. In the ad, Manning explains how Tide has made the jersey exchange tradition safe during the COVID pandemic. Williams keeps interrupting him because he has so many options. All these former Tide stars in the NFL that we're talking about as far as exchanging jerseys go. Quentin's really good in that, too. He's got that big personality. He's kind of a natural, Rod.
He really is. He did a great job. And how about Peyton Manning? He led the band. Remember that, Gary, when they beat Alabama in Legion Field in '95? And now, he's lauding all these great Alabama players. And few years, there's going to be another Manning coming around, Gary. It's going to be a fantastic prospect as well.
Arch Manning, Peyton's nephew. Who knows?
Yeah, you never
Maybe
know.
he'll be the first Manning to play at Alabama. You just never know, do you? All right, let's head to the phone lines. Johnny is with us in Bessemer. Hey, Johnny, what's up?
Gary, what's going on, man?
Oh, you know it, pal.
Hey, man, I'm calling about Wallow, man. Will he be back next year? Is he done? I want to ask you about National Signing Day. How many more players can we sign, man? And I'll holler at y'all later, brother.
All right, John. Okay, good deal. All right, on Waddle, the expectation is, again, you never say never anymore with what is done medically these days, but the expectation is that he won't play anymore this season, and that, in my opinion, includes the playoff. We shall see. He then has the option of coming back or going on to the NFL draft. Rodney, it would be my opinion that he'll go on to the NFL, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if he came back. But then again, there's been stranger things that have happened, Gary. But again, you would think he's still kind of projected as a first-round draft pick right now. I certainly would expect him to go.
And as far as slots left for the signing class, Alabama has 22 commitments, so that at least 3, they might wind up signing or taking commitments from, what, another 4, 5, or possibly 6, Rod?
Well, listen, I really think probably anywhere from 2 to 4, depending on how it all unfolds. Like you said, they only have a couple of spots left, but sometimes you can create space somehow in terms of, you have a guy that maybe gray shirts or whatever, and that can open up a spot for you. So we'll really have to see how it kind of plays out. Depends on maybe the guys that want to come, because they're in on several top-notch guys, 5-star type guys, and you don't ever want to turn those down.
All right, let's get to an email, and this is from Dennis in Tuscaloosa. This sounds crazy, but Mac Jones should have been the quarterback last year. Stats don't lie. Well, Dennis, it's great that Alabama has had terrific quarterback play. When he got his opportunity, he made the most of it, but Tua was the quarterback, and Mac was the backup. Who's to say, with Mac as great as he is, if Bryce Young has to come in, he might light it up too. I mean, these are good players. Steve Sarkisian's an excellent coach, but I don't think anybody's second-guessing Tua being the starting quarterback last year, Rodney.
Tua is a generational talent. That doesn't mean that Mac Jones isn't doing a fantastic job, that he won't be a first-round draft pick, who knows, might win the Heisman Trophy. They're different players. They're playing on different teams. And Mac Jones, Gary, what he's done is, it's as good as there's been, like you said earlier. There's no question about that. But to question Tua, come on.
All right, coming up on TITV, one Alabama basketball player has received some preseason hype on the hardwood. We'll tell you who. And also, more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone lines are open right now at 205-348-9882. Or you can email us, TITV@WVUA23.com. We'll be right back with more Tighter Insider TV right after this timeout. Alabama men's basketball guard John Petty, who does not play football. He plays basketball. He's one of 20 candidates selected to the 2021 Jerry West Shooting Guard of the Year Award watch list, which recognizes the top shooting guards in Division I men's college basketball. There's Petty. Last season, he was a second-team All-SEC selection. He's one of 3 players from the SEC on the watch list, along with Scotty Lewis from Florida, Terrence Clark from Kentucky, and he is the 3rd. All right, welcome back to Tighter Insider TV. Let's get right back to the phone lines, and Rick is with us over in Bluff Park. Hey, Rick.
Hey, fellas, appreciate you taking my call. Right off the bat, I've got to eat crow, so to speak. Kudos to the offensive line and the defense for the progress since halftime of the Georgia game. They're playing Alabama football. We sure are proud of them. Najee looks great. Brian is complimenting him very, very well. And also the 3 freshmen that are playing a lot on defense. I don't know a whole lot about number 14, Mr. Branch. If you could elaborate on those 3, I sure would appreciate it. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, Rodney, obviously 14, Brian Branch. Would Malachi Moore be the other? Tim Smith. I'm just throwing some
Will
freshmen
Anderson,
out there. Will Anderson. Some of those guys, they have made it. They've helped this defense out a lot.
Yeah, no question about that, Gary. I mean, Brian Branch, we talked a lot about him, Rick, for since he committed to Alabama over a year ago. And he's a guy that's an outstanding talent from the state of Georgia. He was a guy that actually was running first team at the star position where Malachi Moore, another true freshman, is now starting. So both of those guys, valuable additions as true freshmen. Will Anderson starting to really come around there at that outside linebacker spot. And Timothy Smith, he is going to be a monster inside on that defensive line, certainly already making an impact. Hey, Gary, listen, think about this. We all saw the debacle against Ole Miss where Alabama gave up, 48 points. A lot of people were certainly upset about that. That particular game, the way the defense played. But in the last 10 quarters, Alabama's only given up 17 points. Pretty impressive. Yeah,
indeed it is. All right, let's get to an email before we close out the segment. From Jerry in Homewood, was the shutout more about Bama's defense or Mississippi State's pitiful offense? Jerry, I think it's a fair question. Mississippi State is struggling on offense. Even Nick Saban said after the game, we just dared them to run the football. It's going to be different going forward. But still, it's probably a combination of the two, right?
Yeah, look, Gary, here's the thing. The question is, how did Alabama play defensively? They tackled extremely well. They were in position. They didn't miss a lot of tackles, obviously. And they looked like they were playing with a lot of confidence and playing fast. So I think that's certainly a good sign.
All right, we'll be back to wrap up this Election Day edition of TITV right after this. Congratulations to Mercy Schellengat. She earned Alabama women's cross country's first National Athlete of the Week honor. She collects the accolade after she won the SEC Women's Cross Country individual title this past weekend with a victory in the 6,000-meter run. It's the first time an Alabama runner has captured an individual SEC cross country title since 1993. Congratulations again to Schellengat. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of Tider Insider TV. For Rodney Orr, I am Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. You can catch a replay tonight at 10:30. That's going to do it for TITV.